Stay alert!
Hello, welcome back to the channel. I am the Disc Golf Nerd, and it's time for my 2023 Halloween special. Stay tuned to the end of the video for an exciting announcement. But first, we're going to do something very different here on the channel, and I'm actually going to show you guys how I make a pumpkin pie. Something I do every Halloween. It actually started a few years ago when I ended up carving some jack-o'-lanterns out of organic pie pumpkins. After I was done with them, I decided I didn't want to waste them, so I made puree and I turned that into a pie. This video, though, we're just going to use some canned pumpkin puree, make it a lot easier and more accessible for you guys, but it does work out really well with fresh pumpkin made into puree at home. Really easy process if you want to look that up. So basic ingredients: butter, eggs, sugar, flour, salt, of course, pumpkin pie seasoning. Of course, the full recipe for this pie will be found in the description below, so go check that out if you want more information. But all basic stuff, nothing too crazy. If you don't have clove, you could probably omit it. We're going to start by making the crust. This is a really simple crust that I like the way this turns out. It's just flour, sugar, a little bit of salt, and then you add to that some melted butter and then some vegetable oil. In this case, I'm using coconut oil, and neutral coconut oil is great too, but any basic vegetable oil is fine. I'm going to give the dry ingredients a quick mix off to the side here, and then we're going to melt the butter. While the butter is melting, I'll mix this up. Then I basically just kind of soft melt the butter. I don't do brown butter or anything like that. I just want to get it melted without a ton of heat so that I can make the dough right in this pan right here. So I'll just keep it over low heat, probably pull it off the heat before it's even fully melted, and just left the residual heat from the pan melted the rest of the way. And then I'm going to mix in my dry ingredients. Really basic, simple stuff here. Give it a quick whisk. Probably a wooden spoon would be better for this because it gets a little bit stuck in the whisk, but it's not that big of a deal either. This will quickly turn into a soft dough that's really easy to work with. Now, we're not going to roll this out or anything like that. It's actually a press-in crust. So once you kind of start to get it to form together like this, I'll usually get in there with a spoon or a spatula, or even just my hands, and then get all the little bits together into this nice dough ball here. And then we're going to break it up into small pieces and sprinkle that into the bottom of this pan. So again, really accessible way to do this. And what I like about this is it ends up being a very kind of buttery, almost like an English shortbread cookie type crust, which is really nice in my opinion, and also just a lot easier to do than a traditional pie crust where you have to roll it out and all that type of stuff. So you're just going to sprinkle this in as evenly as you can. I'll make sure I have a little bit extra around the outside rim because I'm going to work that up the side of the pie pan as well. Doing this with one hand as I'm filming, so it's a little bit awkward, but you're getting the idea. Once I get a nice even layer across the bottom, now I will kind of work that edge up and over. Really not worried about how it looks at all. And then once it gets nice and set up here and you have the shape that you're looking for, kind of, press down the top a little bit to keep it all into shape. And now we will throw this in the fridge for half an hour to let it set. You can leave it in there longer, but half an hour is plenty. And we're going to move on to the filling. So full can of pumpkin puree will go in now, and then I will add to it some sweetened condensed milk. Really basic because of the sweetened condensed milk. It's got the milk, it's got the sugar. You don't have to make sure every little drop of the condensed milk comes out of the can. In fact, if you want to short it to kind of adjust the sweetness level of the pie, you can totally do that. You don't even have to use the full can if you want to cut it down a little bit. It still seems to work fine. I'll just kind of get most of it and call it good. Once you start to mix this up, you will notice pretty quickly that it's a very thin and runny mixture. Don't worry about that. That is exactly what it's supposed to look like. Give this a quick whisk, and it is time for the pie seasoning. Classic stuff: cinnamon, nutmeg, clove. If you didn't have clove, it probably wouldn't be a huge problem. Put some allspice in there if you wanted to. I think a little splash of vanilla might actually be nice for this recipe. I might try that next year. And here come the eggs. So the original recipe called for 2 eggs. I have moved it up to 3 normal eggs here because I want it to be a little bit more set, a little bit more custardy in the end result in terms of the texture. I've done it as much as 4 eggs, but the recipe originally called for 2. So however you want to do it is totally fine. But you can see, again, very runny, liquidy mixture here. That's exactly what it's supposed to look like. And this particular instance, I actually transferred this into a pitcher because I think it'll make it a lot easier to get it into the crust. Now we are ready for baking. 325 or 350 are both fine for this recipe. I've done it both ways. We have the nice crust here that's been setting in the fridge. I'm going to put this on a cookie sheet, some aluminum foil just for a little extra security in case it bubbles over, and I'm going to pour in the liquid. Now, if you're uncomfortable moving this kind of liquidy mixture from the counter into the oven, what you want to do is open the oven, pull the rack out, put your whole pan and crust in the oven, on the rack already, then pour in your mixture, right? Then all you got to do is just slide in the rack and close the oven and you're good to go. So here's what it looks like when it's done. You're going to see it has a little bit of a crater in the dead center and it will jiggle a little bit if you shake it, but you can see it's not liquid anymore. It's definitely set. It's just still got some give to it. It's got a little wobble to it and it has that color around the outside edge. And here is what it looks like when it's done. It's been resting in the fridge to cool down. You might want to dig into this thing right away and think, oh, how bad could it be if it's warm? Warm pie sounds good. You really want to cool it down all the way before you serve it. In fact, usually the last piece of this pie is usually better than the first one. And here we are, ready to serve. Whipped cream, absolutely essential. Can of ready whip or whatever is totally fine. In this instance, I used some fresh whip. I actually put a little splash of honey in there for a little extra autumnal flavor. And we're ready to enjoy. Okay, so we are back in the studio to finish off this video. I wanted to give you guys a closer look at this brand new Halloween Edition Defiant from NSH Custom Discs. This is the first time we're doing a Halloween release or any kind of Halloween style thing that I've ever had available for you guys to purchase, and I think it's pretty cool. I'm really happy about it, actually. Halloween was always a big deal in my family because my brother's birthday is November 1st, so Halloween would kind of turn into his birthday. He passed away a long time ago now, but I still think about him a lot and, our memories as a kid during Halloween, and I still try to keep some of those traditions alive, and part of that is making the pie that I showed you guys earlier. I started doing that a few years ago as part of my own kind of personal Halloween tradition. Yeah, the Defiant, if you guys are not familiar, same disc that is my Disc Golf Nerd signature Defiant. Those are still available, by the way, if you want one of those instead, but we're doing this special edition only during the month of October. So we're not going to pretend like we can't make as many of these as we want to. There's no artificial number limits on them. Buy as many as you want. Bury Jason in orders. I would love to hear that happened. But yeah, instead of pretending that it's like a limited edition in terms of the number that we're producing, we are just going to make it a limited time only for you to order these. So these are only available to order during the month of October 2023. So the Defiant, you see it's got this black back on it. It's got the white rim, but we actually tacked in a little bit of Halloween orange in there. And then the top is clear, so the light will go behind it. You can see all of this design. And then also the clear layer on the top kind of traps a bunch of light. So even though this is a black disc, it's still quite shiny. Got the white and orange on there. It's still going to be pretty easy for you to spot. Plus, the Defiant is so money, it's going to be sitting right next to the basket anyway. It's not hard to find it when it's underneath the pin. I throw this thing constantly. I'm going to throw in some clips of me throwing it. My signature edition, I didn't quite actually get the time to throw this one before I had to put this video together to get it ready for October 1st. If you're not familiar, it will fly very straight when you throw it low. It'll flip up and fly super straight. If you give it some height, it'll start to ride out to the right, but it will still have time to fade back at the end. I basically always throw it with some level of hyzer release. And then if you throw it with a stiff hyzer and you throw it up in the air like kind of quasi spike line, it'll actually behave quite overstable and dig and really fight in on a sharp hyzer. So really fascinating disc. It's very versatile. I genuinely use it a ton. And I think I've gotten a birdie with this thing every single round of golf I've played. I've gotten at least one birdie throwing a Defiant for the last, several months in a row, all summer for sure, and going back into the spring and stuff. So I want to say thank you once again to everybody for continuing to support the channel. I will talk to you again relatively soon, and we'll probably do some type of other holiday releases in the holiday season coming up here at the end of the year as well. So stay tuned for that. I love you guys. That is it for this video. A link to order these will be in the description below, along with all my other support links for Patreon, Upper Park Disc Golf, etc., etc. Shout out once again to NSH Custom Discs for helping to make these ideas become reality. I appreciate their support. I appreciate all of you. Happy Halloween. I will talk to you very soon. Cheers.